Hello, hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is your girl Mitzi, and this is Mitzi. Let's think about it. Today we are thinking about speaking without fear. Ooh, ladies and gentlemen, that is a thinker, and we need to think about this because our voice matters. And I have Marisa here who's going to help us really think about this. She's a returning guest. She has such a beautiful mind that she wants to share it with everybody else so that we can continue on thinking, right? So, thank you so much, Marisa, for coming on to my show again, sharing your time, your perspective on this beautiful topic. Let's just dive right in. When you hear the words speaking without fear, what does that make you think about?
That's a great question. And a lot of times people think speaking without fear, excuse me, means that you actually don't have any fear.
Mm.
But that's actually not the truth. The truth is you might still have fear, especially when you're just starting to share your voice in the world or even just in a small way with family and friends. But the key is about not letting the fear stop you from speaking your truth. And so
Exactly.
it's not having the fear of speaking regardless of any anxiety or fear you might actually be feeling on the inside. You don't let that stop you from sharing what you want to share and from having the boundaries that you want for yourself to protect yourself and just to honor yourself.
Yeah, and I think that's the hardest part is just knowing how to protect ourselves while also expressing ourselves. So, in your opinion, what causes people to really step out into fear, you know what I mean, and into the unknown and to really voice themselves?
Let me just make sure I understand your question. So you want me to share when somebody's ready to speak out, what would
Yes.
help them to do that, not when they're stuck. Okay, perfect. Well, a lot of times for me, it happened when I was actually in my early 20s. I'll just share, I had a situation where I realized that I was shut down and I wasn't speaking my truth. But because of that, I had shut down in every area of my life. And so I went to some counseling and I realized that if I wasn't willing to step out of my comfort zone, I was going to be stuck in that place forever. And I didn't
Wow.
want to be there. So I had that internal drive and desire to have a better life, to feel happier and more fulfilled. And I felt that in my early 20s. So it's different for everybody what might call them or inspire them to speak out no matter what. For some, it could even be just survival, right? It can be different reasons, but it's really what I love to share is it's really a great idea even before you start speaking out and speaking with your voice to do some inner healing work first because that's going to give you the confidence and the strength to stand in your power even against disapproval from others or attack from others. You'll be able to actually stand powerfully and lovingly. And that's the key
Mm.
because many times when people first start speaking out, it's out of anger and out of resentment and out of, I've had enough. And it's with that, that energy that pushes
Yeah.
people. But when we can stand in our truth and communicate it from the heart in the face of anything,
Yeah.
that's real power.
Yes, I love that. I love the fact that you stated standing in your truth. Ooh, that's such a beautiful statement because I would like to know what identifies as standing in your truth? How does someone know that they're standing in their truth versus standing in their fear or standing in their anger, like you were talking about earlier? How do we identify that?
It's being able to connect with your feelings, right? Being able to
Mm.
own them because that was something that I was completely disconnected from. So I had no sense of it. So once I became connected, I knew when I was just keeping quiet to not rock the boat, keeping quiet out of fear of causing conflict or fear of being attacked or judged or criticized. So when we have those thoughts, you talk about thinking when you first started this conversation, right? When we pay attention to our thoughts, it can help us to understand, are we being directed by a thought of fear or a thought of love? And it's a fear thought when we're like, oh, I better not say that because fill in the blank. Oh, better not
Mhm.
say that. Better keep my mouth shut because who knows, this could just blow up in my face. That's
Yeah.
stopping yourself because of fear. And so we know if we're listening to ourselves what our truth is because we
Yeah.
can feel it. When we're feeling off, anxious, anxiety, it's because there's a truth that wants to be spoken or revealed. And when you're not saying it, you're going to feel that because your spirit is telling you you're not honoring yourself here. You are
Mm.
not speaking your truth. And so
Yes.
it's trying to nudge us gently to speak.
Oh, I love that. And it sounds like we really have to get aligned with our intentions. Am I right?
Yes,
Because
yes,
if our intentions are in the right place, then it shouldn't matter what the people say or what the people perceive because it's our intentions. And as long as our intentions are in the right place when we speak, then it the rest is void, right? I mean, because it's all starts within. Nobody knows what's going on the
mm-hmm,
inside. They only see
mm-hmm,
what's going on the outside. And a lot of the times people just project out their own inner feelings, their own inner trauma,
yes,
their own inner pain onto other people. So I think when we give ourselves that compassion and being gentle with ourselves, we
mm-hmm,
allow ourselves to be gentle with other people when they're speaking their truth, and we're allowing that empathy to come in, and it creates this like bond, you know what I mean, kind of like a
mm-hmm,
connection, right?
mm-hmm,
When you
mm-hmm,
communicate with somebody, because it's like, huh, I see what you're saying, I see where you're going with this, and I applaud you for your vulnerability. And I think people
mm-hmm.
don't realize that when you are vulnerable with somebody else, it allows you to really be relatable. And I think we need to be more relatable than in this competition that people
Yes,
are constantly putting themselves in, or they think they have to be in this rat race. Like, no, it's not about competition. We're not competing with
no,
anybody. It's about
no.
just embracing ourselves and accepting everyone for who they are. And I think that's a great point to really lead off with too, because it's like we really got to evaluate our intentions. I mean, in your
Mhm.
perspective, how important is our intentions?
Well, if you mean intentions, if your intention is to be right, then I can tell you right now that's not going to go so well, right? Because
Exactly.
if that's our intent, then that's kind of an ego battle that's going to happen,
That's
right?
a really
So
good
if you
point.
can keep your intention true to, again, really, if we really are honoring ourselves and our spirit, we would never choose an intention to be right or an intention to blame or to make somebody else wrong or responsible for something. Our true heart intention is to be loving, is to be caring, is to be cooperative, not competitive, like you said. That's really our soul essence,
Yeah,
right? So if we can
exactly.
start from that space, then things are going to go much better. Now, it doesn't mean other people are still going to receive what you say in a positive way, because as you mentioned, it doesn't matter what we share, even if we share from our heart and we share very lovingly and not confrontationally, it can
Yeah.
still trigger a wound in another that hasn't been healed. And so they can still react in a very unloving way. And we
Yeah.
might be like, wow, I was being so loving and so gentle. Why are they attacking me now? So, if we can remember when that happens, it is a projection, like you said. We don't need to take it personally, even though they are pointing fingers and making it personal. That doesn't mean it's true. And so, if we've done our healing work, we're going to know that. If we haven't, that's what throws us off course because we start to
Yeah.
internalize the projection and think, wow, maybe I am a bad person. Maybe what they're saying
Yeah.
is true. We start having all these self doubts. But
Yeah.
when you've done some healing work, you start to recognize and you can give more empathy and compassion even when somebody is attacking you. And that's something I share in a book that I'm a co-author in. And I'm not going to go into the details of it, but that I share a very personal story of a transformational story with my father. And it
Mm.
was pretty amazing. And I'm not going to give away the details because people will have to read the book. But if we want to talk about that, we can. But it's just really, you've done some healing work and you're staying in your power when someone can attack you and you can still feel peace inside, knowing this is their fear, this is their projection, and it's not about you. And you can love them back, not throw in
Mm.
their face, oh, this is just your fear, because that's now coming from your ego as well, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, so
Exactly.
so when you talk about intention, if your intention is to connect with another being, to extend love to another being and to yourself and to honor yourself in the process, not
Mhm.
give up who you are for someone else. If that's your intent, then and you guide, lead with love, it always goes well in the end, even if there's ruffles, in the middle there. You just have to,
Yo,
move through it with that grace and with that love in your heart.
I believe that 110% because my husband, he's most definitely working on himself and being with me, I am teaching him that it's okay to work on himself and to
Yeah.
work on those inner demons that he's been avoiding and struggling with for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And the other day he literally snapped on me like hardcore because he was just projecting all of this stuff inside. And I was just
Mm-hmm.
okay. I was gentle. I knew where his place was coming. I knew where it was coming from. So I didn't take no heart. Nothing. I prayed for him.
Yes.
I gave him his space and I let it go. And he
Mm-hmm.
came to me a couple hours later, apologizing, recognizing where it was
Wow.
coming from, and admitting that he was wrong and admitting everything. And I was just like, I'm giving you the time you need because nobody gave you the time to know that it was okay. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? And I think
Yes.
that's one thing that people need to remember is that when we give that somebody who's projecting out just time to just
Mm-hmm.
reconsider everything instead of like you said,
Mm-hmm.
going getting in our ego and our pride and it's a screaming match. It's like no one really
Yes.
wins. But
No,
if
they
you
don't.
allow yourself to just empathize and recognize why that person is lashing out, where that's coming from, and you
Mm-hmm.
understand
Mm-hmm.
then you can
Mm-hmm.
have more compassion with them. So I think that's a beautiful thing that you brought up because
Mm-hmm.
too many people forget that and it just comes into this battle war like, oh,
Yes.
who's right? Who gets the last word? And
Yes.
it's like, it's not about the last word. It's about making sure that they feel heard, they feel
Yes.
loved, and they feel understood. And this is still a safe space, even if they don't
Mm-hmm.
feel it at the moment. So yes,
Exactly.
I truly, truly believe that. And I know is what you said earlier, is that coming from that book, from this book that just came out, The Wellness Universe Guide to Complete Self-Care, the 25 Tools of Transformation? Is that the new
Yes.
the from your
Yes.
story? Oh, how
Yes,
cool
it
is
is.
that?
Yes, it's an
If you don't,
incredible book. Yeah, because
okay.
there's like as it says, there's several authors and we each share a personal story of transformation. And
Oh,
so, and we provide a tool that can support the reader in experiencing a transformation as well. And the stories are absolutely amazing. And my chapter is called Speaking Without Fear, Release Past Wounds and Create Healthy Boundaries. And as I alluded to earlier, the story I share is a very powerful story about a transformation in my relationship with my father because I had an abusive past. And so it's very, very powerful because some people think, if you had an abuser in your life, then you can forgive and forget, but not be in relationship with them. And sometimes that is necessary. It depends on the circumstances, right? If it's for your safety, absolutely. I just feel completely blessed that I was able to transform that relationship before my father passed away. He passed away in 2015, and I was his primary caregiver for his last 2 months, and I was his caregiver from love. And that would not have been the case if I hadn't had that transformation. So it was
yeah.
such a gift. It's such a gift when we can transform relationships that are important to us.
Oh, absolutely. And that leaves you off feeling so healed
Mm-hmm.
and so good inside because it makes you realize you are not the woman that you once was. And
Yes.
because of that, it just shows that change is possible. Your mind can change, your heart can change, the
Mm-hmm.
wounds can literally just be a scar to be there, but it's not open anymore, hurting you still
Exactly.
years later. And I think that's a
Yes.
great way for people to really go check out the book. And also,
Yes.
I'm also wondering what
Mhm.
made you so passionate in helping women break free and speak their truth? You know what I mean? Like, what was that for you?
Well, it was because of my own personal journey. As I mentioned earlier, because of my childhood abuse and trauma, I shut down and I really had no voice. It was just safer to be quiet than to be
Yeah.
seen and heard, right? So I just kind of blended in with the walls and hoped nobody would notice me. And it was a very sad situation because even when I was in my, young adult years, I realized I don't want to live like this. I need to be able to feel free. I need to know who I am because I didn't know who I was. I didn't even know what my preferences were, what I really liked or didn't like, because there was no point in having any of those desires growing up when they weren't acknowledged anyway, or could have been even dangerous to voice, right? So there was no point. So it took a while for me. But because I did find my voice and I did, work, I've been doing healing work for over 40 years, maybe over 45. I'm getting on in the years there. And it's just been such a life-giving journey. I would not be living the life I'm living today. I live a life that most people just dream about. I never would have believed this was possible for me as a child or young adult. And so I want other people, women, especially because we've been silenced more. I do help men as well, but I chose to really focus on speaking to women because we've been silenced the most over the years, and ignored, and put everybody else first and our needs last, and you're being selfish if you think about yourself or put yourself first, all of that nonsense, where putting self first is an act of self-love. And the more we love ourselves, the more we can extend that love to everybody else. So because I've learned so much over the last 40 plus years, and been able to create a great life and an incredible relationship that's over 20 years now, I want that for everybody who wants it, but just doesn't know how to create it, right? They don't have the tools. They don't understand why it's not working in their life. If I can help, that's just something I love to share.
Oh yeah, I absolutely understand where you're coming from. I mean, because it's been centuries that
Mm-hmm.
women have been told better quiet than and be
Mm-hmm.
pretty and quiet instead of actually voicing out and disturbing the peace of men or
Yes.
disturbing the peace of anybody because they know what's best or the
Yes.
adults. I mean, because as children we're taught to stay quiet and to listen and to obey because that's what respect is. But it's like now we
Mm-hmm.
are learning that respect is more than just silence.
Mm-hmm.
Respect is voicing your words in such a way that you can really speak your truth. And if it
Mm-hmm.
offends, then that means you have to check yourself. You have
Yes.
to evaluate where that anger is coming from, where that
Mm-hmm.
sadness, where that thing is coming
Mm-hmm.
from. And I'm starting more to realize like people are having personal problems, but we are taking it into as if it's our problem. Like, no, sweetie, it's a personal problem. It's not my problem anymore. I voiced my
Mm-hmm.
opinion. I voiced what I had to say. I spoke it with the most sincerest words, nicest words that I
Mm-hmm.
can choose in
Mm-hmm.
the dictionary. But if it's still not right, the tone is still not right, it's still not, that means it's no longer my problem. The ball is in your court. Now go ahead and do that self-care like you were talking about
Mm-hmm.
earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Like that self-care truly does do something because when you do start to take care of yourself and love yourself in another way, it allows you to love other people another way.
Mm-hmm.
It allows you to be compassionate, forgive people, and recognize
Mm-hmm.
everyone is making mistakes
Sure.
constantly, but it doesn't mean that we have to hold it on top of their heads everywhere they go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a beautiful thing. And I want to know, how can we start recognizing when our words are coming from a place of fear?
When they're coming from a place of fear, your body will be more tense
Mhm.
normally. You'll feel that anxiety and your throat could be a little tight as well, right? And whenever you, again, you go into that self-doubt or you start questioning whether you should say something or not, if you start saying, maybe I shouldn't say that, then you're in fear because you don't
Mhm.
question yourself when you're in your heart. You know that what you're sharing is coming from your truth and from your heart. So you're not going to have those thoughts. So again, pay attention to the thoughts in your mind and what is directing you. What have you given power to? Your mind or your heart?
There you go. That's a beautiful thing. So it sounds like to me to having that moment of pause is very
Mm-hmm,
important. Is that
mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm, absolutely. And if you're feeling fear and you want to speak anyways, a wonderful way to do that I've used many times in the past when you're with somebody is to just be honest about it and say, there's something I want to share with you from my heart, and I'm feeling some anxiety just
Mhm.
thinking about saying these words to you because I'm concerned that you might take them the wrong way or that you might be offended or whatever you think, whatever is going on in your head. When we speak what's going on in our heads to the person that's in front of us, it leaves the space. Plus, it helps them to realize that you're not just blurting something out. you're letting them know that you don't, this isn't to offend, it's not to upset them. And you can say, if this upsets you, I'm sorry because that's not my intent. I just feel this is something I need to say. And then you just say it. And then if
Yeah.
they do get upset, you can say, I'm really sorry that it did upset you because, as I mentioned, it's not my intent, as you
Yeah.
mentioned, intent. So,
Yeah.
what's coming up for you? Help the person look at what's underneath that upset. What is it that caused them to be upset? Because it wasn't your words. It's what they made those words mean, or that those words could have brought to the surface an unhealed wound, and that's what triggered it, their
Mm.
reaction. It's not what
Hmm.
you said, it's what was underneath it. So that's where you can start giving them
Yeah.
empathy and compassion and supporting them and creating that safe space to take a deeper look at why they were offended or why they're upset by what you said. Because it's not about you. I
Yeah.
guarantee it. It's going to look like it is because they're going to say, well, if you didn't say that, I wouldn't be upset. Right?
Oh,
But that
I
isn't
hate
the
those
truth.
words.
I
Yeah.
know, but it's not true. It's an easy answer, but it's not true because we're not responsible for other people's emotions, just our own.
I
We
love that.
cannot control the emotions of others or the actions and behaviors of others. We can only make choices of our own. So even when we get upset and triggered by somebody else, we need to remember it's not about them. So to say to them, well, you just made me angry. No, what you said or did brought up anger within me. That would be true, but they didn't
Mm-hmm.
cause it. Because if
Mm-hmm.
there was no anger inside you, there's nothing to come up,
Exactly.
right?
I love that. Yeah.
So if you can take responsibility and look at, okay, what's going on really? What's underneath this anger in me? So the more
Yeah.
we practice that with ourselves, the easier it is for us to help another person when they go into that triggered space. The easier it is for us to give them the safe space, to give them the love, to give them the compassion and empathy when we've done it for ourselves and given it to ourselves first, because then we have the tools.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's where the power comes. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Basically where the power comes because I was about to ask you that where does the power come? But you basically said it. It
Yeah.
comes from that place of just knowing
Yes.
that it's not has nothing to do with you. As long as you are working within yourself and doing your self-care,
Hmm.
doing that inner healing,
Hmm.
revealing all of those bats and cobwebs
Hmm.
inside our
Yes.
hearts and minds and
Yes.
cleaning it out, doing that spring cleaning inside, then we
Yes.
can really gain that power back because we know where our words are coming from. We know
Yes.
where it's where everything is coming from. You have this
Hmm.
underlying understanding. And when you take that time to be like, oh, I'm feeling angry. Why am I feeling angry? Let me sit with this. Let me write this down.
Hmm.
If you can't
Yes.
actually at the moment evaluate it, you can do
Hmm.
it in your quiet time. Write it down in
Hmm.
a notebook,
Hmm.
write it down in some stickies, something so that you can look back and reflect like, oh, so and so made me upset and she said this. I wonder why this triggered me. And then you can
Hmm.
really dive in and be like, oh, it's because my grandmother did this, or oh, because of this
Yes.
and this and this.
Yes.
And you can know where that is. So when it happens again, it doesn't offend you. You literally can become unoffendable. So
Yes.
but people don't realize that. And it's funny because
Yes.
I was watching a something where somebody was like, is it weird that somebody can get mad at you for not being mad? And
Yes.
somebody was like, yes, that is weird. And it's like because if I'm not mad, then you shouldn't be mad at me for not being mad. You should be
Yes.
happy for me knowing that I have that inner peace or that inner understanding that it has nothing to do with me. It's something to do with that person inside. And I think the fact that people are so disconnected with themselves or that just
Hmm.
understanding or they were never taught because this is
Yes.
not something that a lot of people were taught. So
Exactly.
you were never taught, you're never going to understand that concept.
Hmm.
But it's like I
Hmm.
think we owe ourselves that knowledge. We owe ourselves
Hmm.
to dive in and to know more within ourselves. So I think just doing that inner work gives us that platform that
Hmm.
it is okay, you know. So
Hmm.
that is truly something interesting. So I have to ask you, what is something, three things that you're grateful for?
Oh, three things I'm grateful for. Well, the first thing I'll say is the love of my life that I've
Mm.
spent since 2001 together, and we've had an incredible journey together, and it just gets better and better. And also my life in Colombia, South America. We moved abroad, and it's just an absolutely beautiful life. And I'm grateful for the people that I serve and the difference that I can make in their lives.
Mm.
And
I love
yeah,
that.
those are probably my top three.
That's those are good ones, you know. That's those are good ones because they have a really big impact in your life
Mhm.
and the ones around you. And I think people forget that our lives impact so many other people's around us where it triggers
Mhm.
them a thought. It triggers them to motivate them to do something else. And you don't even realize that. Like we're planting seeds along our life journey for whoever we
Mhm.
encounter. And it makes a big impact on what we do, what we say, and how we handle ourselves. And it's bringing back our accountability. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And people
Mhm.
have lost accountability
Mhm.
and they've lost that discernment to know how to manage people and how to see when somebody's hurting. You know what I mean? They
Mhm.
just don't
Mhm.
care anymore. So I think it really brings it back to, like we were talking about earlier, that power. Oh my goodness,
Mhm.
this has been such a great conversation, Marissa, and time is catching up to us. So, what
Yes.
can be some lasting words of wisdom that you can leave us off with to keep on thinking?
My lasting words of wisdom is to say that no matter what your life or your relationships look like in this moment, you do have the power within you to recreate both to match your heart's desires.
Yes. I like that. I like that a lot. See, ladies and gentlemen, how could you not keep thinking about this, right? Go check her out. I have her lovely photo on my website. Just boop, just click on her face, takes her you directly to her website, so you can find all of the great stuff that she's offering to the world. Great tools so that you can utilize your voice, utilize your mind, utilize all that you are, so that you can be magnificent in everything that you are. Right? Go
Yes.
check out her book. Go read those stories so that they can transform your life if you need that big transformation, because you're not only going to hear her story, you're going to
Yes.
hear other people's story too, so that it can be relatable, to know that you're not living this life on your own. You're not the only one that has felt pain. You're not the only one that has scars that feel unable to heal, when in reality, they are healable. You are living this life with so many other people who are struggling and are in pain, but we can all do this together. You know, we are community. That's what we are.
Yes.
So, with that being said, always, always, always keep thinking, y'all. Bye.